Jason, going back to the tiredness concept, this might be a little bit of a personal question.
Hmm?
Um, when was the time you last felt tired?
So, there you find tired in if anybody who has their own business, right? You're constantly you're the owner, the leader, and the janitor at the same time, right? Things come to you that usually you're the last person, right? Oh, someone doesn't know what to do, so they ask the next person, they ask the next person, right? And then they ask the next person, and they get to you and they ask you, right? You can't turn around and say, well, it's you. You're at that end, right? So you have to constantly be in control of your emotions because throughout the day you're gonna again get back to the controls, right? I control getting up in the morning, having a workout, take my kids to school. But then the second I get to work, right, there might be one fire, or maybe even before, there might be one, two, or three fires, right? So you find that within your day, like that can drag and draw on you if you constantly let it. But when you pull out from just the one day into the week, into the month, into the year, right? This is only a slow portion of time. And you have to constantly remind yourself, right? Am I going to remember this in 5 years? Most of the time, it's a no. So I find that tiredness doesn't draw so much from work. Where I can feel, I'm not sure if you have kids. I have three little kids, right? And where you can find yourself tired,
Not yet.
not yet. Well, so where you find tired now is that, like kids are like having like someone said it very true. It's like having your heart, I like walking around outside you, right? So you feel so much for your kids,
Okay.
right? Like it's like, but so when they're sick, right? Like that's when you get tired. It's like when you can't help your kid in some way because they're facing something at the moment,
Okay.
that's where your energy
Hmm.
can be expended in a very quick way because you don't want them to have that pain or the suffering or anything in between, right? So my little kid having his teeth out, his teeth dealt with yesterday, that's painful for a parent because you're at the will of what's happening there.
Hmm. Something that you mentioned as well repeatedly is when someone has their own business. And for me personally, when I experience tiredness, so first of all, because this is a very true, I think it's very true and it's very real. When you have your own business or where you're trying to build your own business, and you would know, uh, tiredness is a constant because you're always dealing in uncharted territory most of the time. So there's always a lot of unexpected, which is tiresome at times. So you also always have to be prepared for the unexpected. So for me, that is tiring unless um, I'm used to it. So the more I feel tired when the most time I feel tired is when I'm tackling a new challenge. So when I'm stuck in a situation that I've never been before. So you mentioned that the buck stops at you finally. So when the time comes that you have to take a certain decision or to take a bit of a decision that will might ruin your business, you might be in a position where it will drive you close to close off your own business, for example. It's a very pivotal decision that you need to make. So even though the entrepreneurial journey is tiresome on its own, for me, the most tiresome aspect of it is when you don't have the skills or the knowledge um, of how the decision will impact the future, for example.
Hmm. Yeah, well put. It's many times we're making decisions with our idea of what the result will be. And hopefully
Yeah.
most of the time, it's in our favor, but there's going to be times when we're not, right? And with entrepreneurship, people look at it that many people want to go out there and do something, but what they forget is the controls that they have at their disposal with where they are. They might work a job, they go in at 9, they work till noon, they take an hour lunch, and then they work till 5:30 and they go home, right? And that's just it, right? Then after 5:30,
Yeah.
they're just free to go do. But in entrepreneurship, it's kind of a 24-hour thing, right? You're constantly
Yep.
doing it. It's constantly on your mind. If you're not doing it, right, there's constantly things that you want to push forward, you want to grow with, right? So you're always exposed, right? And so that's a ton of energy, and so you have to constantly be aware of your energy level because you have employees, you come into the office, and if you're just completely beat down, right, it takes the energy out of the office, right? It starts to hurt the
Yeah.
performance on other people if you're constantly using the outside forces that of things not going right, and you're taking it out on your team, right? Then you're not really growing a successful company because you're putting people in a position that they're not ready for.
Mm.
And many times when you're the driver or you're the person who's in control, you're constantly thinking at on different levels than your team, right? Because your team, you hire them for certain roles, but you're not hiring them to take the cross or take the crutch of all of the things you're dealing with, right? That's you to go forward, to be the
Mhm.
visionary, to push forward, to drive the operations forward, and then have them help facilitate that process. So the
Mhm.
energy faction is that you are going to spend energy because you have to be conscious, right? Many times, I think it's 98% of your day is done through unconscious measures, right? 2% is done
Yeah.
consciously. But when you're out there and you have to consciously be aware of the circumstances, right? And be more aware, right? It's like if you're out speaking, you're out doing something that you constantly have to be on for, right? You're tired after. Well, why are you tired after? Because you're having to be wholly focused for many hours at a time compared to
Switched
just a
on.
couple minutes here, a couple minutes there, where the rest of the day you're just kind of winging it.
Hmm. Totally. I mean, and because you're always thinking of your next move, right? So it's something that you really need to think where I'm at, where I'm heading, where I'm at, where I'm heading is that constant cycle, repeatedly, especially if you have employees that you're responsible for, because as you mentioned, you have your own kids, but if you have employees, they have their own family. So um, you start thinking of the impact that any decision that you take will have on
Mhm.
them and their families. So there's a lot of weight to bear there.